Good evening and welcome to another edition of Making the Case with me, your host, Susan Rodrigues. A very warm welcome to my faithful viewers and listeners, and a very special welcome to those of you who are joining us for the first time this evening. Let me acknowledge those who are tuning in on Facebook Live, MTV, and on Freedom Radio. Tonight I want to deal with a couple of issues that are in the news, and then I want to go straight to the phone lines soon after so that I can hear from you, the viewers, and those at home. I want to hear about your concerns. Call me and tell me what's happening, ask me any question you wish. Let's have a fruitful debate and a discussion to keep things lively and to inform the electorate on what is happening in our country. Now, the first thing I want to talk about tonight is GCOM. And as you know, the claims period is over. Yesterday was the last day. And the objections period is now ongoing, and that will last for 7 days. Now, I want to deal with the commission itself, because over the last few months, you would recall that we had some very questionable decisions and discussions that were coming out from the Guyana Elections Commission. If you would recall, we had the discussion by the commission on verification and requiring every single person who is registered to go into a GCOM office to verify their registration and to verify their identity. And as you know, well, the decision was cast aside because it begged for its legality. But more recently, we had the decision, and this is a decision by the commission, not just a proposal, but a proposal from the government commissioners and supported by the GCOM chair to remove approximately 20,000 names from the voters list on the ground that these persons did not uplift their ID cards over the years, I think starting from as far back as 2008. Now, the problem with this decision is that in plain and simple language, it is illegal and it is unconstitutional. Our Constitution does not require us to possess an ID card in order to be eligible to vote. The requirement to vote is that you must be Guyanese and you must be 18 years old. It has other requirements like the Commonwealth citizens and so on who are living here, who are resident here for more than a year. But essentially, you must be Guyanese and you must be 18 years old. And in order to vote on March 2nd, 2020, 18 years old by 31st of December 2019. So this link, this false link that is being established between possessing an ID card and being eligible to vote is wrong. And there should be no link and there is no connection. Because if you can show up at a polling station and announce your name and take an oath, and they go to the folio, which is the document that will be at every polling station. It has your photograph, and as long as you can be identified and you take an oath, you can vote. You can even vote with your passport if you have that. So even if you are required to go and pick up these ID cards, you're still not required to produce them in order to cast your ballot on election day. And this is why we have a very, very big problem with this decision by the Commission. And we are calling upon the GCOM chairman to explain this decision. More so because of the irony of that decision, because this is an issue that was put to bed since 1997 in the Esther Pereira case by the very same person who is now the GCOM chairperson. So in the Esther Pereira case, Justice Claudette Singh, vitiated the entire elections of 1997. And we had to go to elections again on the ground that the persons were required to produce their ID card in order to vote. And she vitiated those elections on the ground that they were not so required before they were eligible to vote. This same Justice Claudette Singh decided that in 1997. More recently, the Chief Justice gave her ruling in this matter when we took the house-to-house case to her, when she said that no one can be deregistered in the house-to-house process. And so that is why the entire process was abandoned. And Justice Singh, now retired Justice Singh, in keeping with that decision by the Chief Justice, abandoned the house-to-house registration activity that had commenced on the basis that they would deregister everyone and then re-register everyone by going house to house. And the Chief Justice ruled that that process of deregistering everyone was and is unconstitutional. So the removal or the attempt to remove these 20,000 persons from the list is unlawful, and we look forward very much to hearing from the GCOM chairman explaining her reasons for this decision. And we are supposed to hear from her, I believe, on Friday, when she hosts a press conference. And we're very happy, and we hope that she will give her reasons on that day, because even the Guyana Press Association has been calling on her to make herself more available to the media. Herself and Lowenfield, the CEO, the Guyana Press Association has been calling on them to make themselves more available and accessible to the media, so that we can have clarity on these decisions that are coming out of the Elections Commission, so that we can hear from them and we don't have to hear any kind of bias of reporting coming from either side, whether it be the government commissioners or the opposition commissioners. We can hear straight from the chairman, because at the end of the day, the buck stops with her. Now, and as I said, even Dr. Suraj Bali, one of the past chairpersons, he had to deal with this very same issue in 2011, when there were 40-something thousand persons, or 40-something thousand ID cards that were still at GCOM, persons had not uplifted. So that number has been drastically reduced. And I even met one of these persons who had not uplifted her ID card over the years. And her explanation was very simple. She did not know that her ID card was there, and she went into GCOM to register a few days ago before the end of the claims period, and she was informed that GCOM had possession of her ID card since a few years back. So these things happen. A lot of times the explanation is very, very innocent, and so she was able to uplift her ID card. And what would have happened to this young woman on March 2nd? She would have been on the register, and they would have removed her name for failure to uplift her ID card. And that would have been unlawful, and she would have been disenfranchised. And we know that the right to vote is sacred. It is enshrined in our Constitution. And if a decision, or if this decision is allowed to be implemented, this is definitely grounds for a legal challenge. And the legal challenge, if we go to elections, having these persons removed. The legal challenge will come from the very people who propose to remove these 20,000 names. It will come from the government side. They are laying the foundation now for a legal challenge to the elections that will be held next year when they lose. So they are laying the foundation for this, and this is why we cannot support this, because we know, we are convinced, and the Constitution is clear. No one can be removed unless they are dead or insane. And so this cannot be allowed to stand. And so even the data that has been produced in the house-to-house registration period that they have posted around the country, you know, there is no way forward on how they plan to merge, or if they plan to merge the two lists, because this house-to-house list was not properly scrutinized. It is unverified data, and we've looked at it. It has a whole host of errors. People are now calling me to tell me that those who participated in the house-to-house registration, that their information is wrong spelling, their address is wrong. It was correct before, which was correct on the register, and now in this house-to-house period, the recently abandoned house-to-house, the information is inaccurate and wrong in many cases, and persons are wondering what is going to happen come elections day. And we know that this list is not a supplemental list, because 90% or more than 90% of the names on the house-to-house list they're duplicates of that on the PLE, the preliminary list of electors. And so it's not supplemental, it's merely a duplicate. And so we are yet to know what or how GCOM plans or what they plan to do with this house-to-house list. And so the most important thing that can happen right now is for us to have what we have been calling for, which is the presence of international observers. We welcome the Canadians and we welcome the Commonwealth. Their offers have been accepted by the Commission, but the offer by the UNDP, which is an offer to assist and oversee the IT department, which is very, very critical in this time, at this period, where you have the generation of the list and adding people onto the list and so on. That offer has not been accepted. And that is the most crucial, that area, that IT department, is the most crucial place where we need that scrutiny, where we need that oversight, where we need the international observers the most. That's where we need them the most. And that is where the resistance is coming from. So Lowenfield is going all out to resist that offer from the UNDP. And remember when Mr. Granger gave a speech and claimed that the list is bloated, and he quoted a figure that the list is bloated by almost 200,000. No one knows up to now where he got that figure from. No one bothered to ask him. The media has not asked him where he got that figure from. It certainly didn't come from Lowenfield. And so even though he claims that the list is bloated by 200,000 persons, in the period of claims and objections, we have only seen 500 objections. 500 objections. And Mr. Granger claimed that the list was bloated by over 200,000 persons. So why have they not, or their scrutineers, the APNO AFC scrutineers, not raised these objections? You had all of October and you still have 7 days remaining, they have not raised these objections because this is it's very much like the president. You know, he just says things. It's unverified. He talks off the top of his head. No facts at all to back up what he's saying, and he's never held responsible for any of the things that he says. And so the international observers are very important at this time because we have to fight the machinery at GCOM. We have to fight the secretariat because that is where the resistance is coming from. The resistance is coming from the secretariat. The secretariat has gone rogue. You have incorrect orders being issued and published, and the chairperson has to go and recall those orders and issue corrected orders. So the secretariat is almost acting on its own and not under the direction of the chairperson. And while she, you know, based on her experience as a judge and so on, while she may be willing to listen to both sides and to act more like an adjudicator, this is not the time or the place for that. We have a very, very crucial elections coming up very soon, and she needs to be decisive. And she needs to do what she promised the nation she would do when she took her oath of office, which is that she would uphold the rule of law and the Constitution. And that is all we in the PPP want her to do. We're not asking for any special treatment. We're not asking her to do any favors. All we want her to do is what she is required to do and what she took an oath of office to do, which is to uphold our Constitution. And so we look forward to hearing from her on Friday. And, you know, all this talk about from the APNU AFC and from Mr. Granger about having credible elections, you know, they were incapable, both camps, the APNU camp and the AFC camp, were unable to have a free, fair, and democratic process within their own parties. If you would remember the incident at Congress Place on the night Granger was selected as the presidential candidate. You had the Lindeners and Aubrey Norton being locked out. I think there was some gunplay involved. Gunshots were heard coming from Congress Place, and all of this racket was going on. They couldn't even have a free, fair, and democratic election within their own party. AFC had their own scandal too. We heard from Imran Khan when we heard Ramjatan was bribing people and giving people presents and so on to vote for him for the prime ministerial candidate. And they want to talk about having a credible elections for Guyana. What do you think they're going to try to do with our national elections, our national and regional elections, when they can't even have a democratic process within their own parties? So these are the people that we are up against. This is what we have to deal with. And I always say that the party with the muscle and the might to do so and the qualifications to do so is the People's Progressive Party. And so that's one. That's on GCOM. I want to move on now to talk about the president's appearance. I say the president because I'm just accustomed to referring to him as that. But Mr. Granger's interview last week with Gordon Mosley. So he had 2 interviews last week, and you know, I found it so hard to listen to because I'm straining, I'm listening for the substance. I'm trying to get from him one iota of sense, something that I could dissect and you know, hear that what will they say, what will they be able to campaign on that they have done over the past 4.5 years, and I'm yet to hear that. So it was all bluff, as expected, all bluff. It lacked substance. It was empty. It was void. It was a bunch of generalized statements. Mr. Granger was unable to articulate any policy in any of the sectors in our economy. He was unable to say how he would reduce taxes, how he would better the cost of living, how he would improve the standard of living and the quality of living in our country. And so he just made very broad statements. And of course, by a sympathetic interviewer, Gordon Mosley, he was not challenged on these things. So he wasn't asked, well, Mr. President, tell us how you're going to do this, or can you outline a plan on how you will get these things done? None of that came. He was just allowed to talk about all these vague, broad statements on what is to come, making more promises, and so on. And so, like he said, for example, he doesn't like a big cabinet. Is he serious? I mean, the cabinet has moved from something like 17 to 27 under his presidency, and he doesn't like a big cabinet. So, and remember when we had all these dual citizens who had to be removed following the ruling of the court, those persons weren't removed. They were simply given new positions. So the government, the party found a new place for them. And so we didn't have them removed. They were still there, serving within the ministries. They simply created new positions for them at the same super salaries at the expense of the taxpayers. And so, he's not challenged on decisions on when he says infactual things like this. And then he was asked, and I was very intrigued when this question was put to him, he was asked, how will Guyanese benefit from oil? And, I was so disappointed with the answer, but it was expected. So he spoke about, when being asked how Guyanese will benefit from oil, he proceeded to lay out a legislative framework and a structural framework. So he went on to talk about the Sovereign Wealth Fund, which is a piece of legislation that was passed after the no confidence motion. So that may very well have to be repealed. It lacks substance, just like everything that Mr. Granger says. And he talked about the Department of Energy. So imagine the president being asked how ordinary Guyanese will benefit from oil. And he's talking about a structural framework that is the Department of Energy and putting systems in place and checks and balances. That does not answer the question. The ordinary Guyanese sitting at home does not or cannot be satisfied with an answer like that. It's all bluff. So instead of talking about a local content policy, he talks about the Sovereign Wealth Fund, and he talks about the department. He established the Department of Energy. How that benefits or brings any kind of benefit or employment or any kind of financial reassurance to the ordinary Guyanese, I have no idea, and I don't think Mr. Granger has any idea either. But that was his answer, because he really can't say anything else. He can't say why, since 2015, more than 4.5 years later, we still don't have a local content policy. It's always in the making. He can't say why he fired the Trinidadian consultant and hired the one that was recommended by ExxonMobil, the British consultant. He can't tell Guyanese why the requirement to have the foreign companies register and pay taxes locally was removed, why that requirement was removed. He can't tell Guyanese why the requirement to partner with local businesses was removed. And, he can't tell the people why all the confidentiality provisions were put into the local content policy. So he has to go with these abstract things like sovereign wealth fund, and we have a structure set up to make sure, to ensure transparency and accountability. Dodging, that's what he does best. He dodges the questions. So, like I said, and then of course, no solid economic policies or any policy in any area, how we plan to improve agriculture, or what he plans to do with the high unemployment rate, high cost of living. None of this was properly addressed. Instead, however, he was more preoccupied with the Queen's College anniversary celebrations, and we saw the big deal he made of the celebrations that went on at Queen's College. And, he gave Queen's College a check for $2-point-something million, and he wanted that to be a big deal. And when the Stabroek News didn't carry any story on that event, the president was most offended. He was very, very offended, and he said, this is what he said. My considered opinion is that Queen's College has contributed immensely to the intelligentsia of Guyana, and Stabroek News didn't see it fit to carry an article about this. So this is what the president is concerned about. In the face of everything that is going on in our country, the Stabroek News not carrying an article about his appearance and his handing over of a $2 million check to Queen's College, because they didn't carry that story, which is not a story of national importance. But because they didn't carry that story, the president is offended by that, and so threatens to pull state ads and so on, calling the Stabroek News unfair in their reporting for not covering that story. And so Granger has always been preoccupied with trifling, frivolous things. Proof, more evidence that he is aloof to what is going on in our country, what is going on the ground, what is happening to ordinary Guyanese. He's distant. He's far removed from what is happening on the ground. So he needs to get back to the ground, but that's a decision for him to make. And so he may be listening to all of these people who are around him and cheering him on and telling him, what a great job he's doing. But as we know, the situation in our country, the situation on the ground is very, very different from what is going on in Mr. Granger's head. And so nothing about the loss of jobs, nothing about the burdensome cost of living. He's not concerned with any of that. He's not concerned with the high taxes and fees. He's not concerned with corruption. He's not concerned with incompetence. Oh, by the way, he said that his ministers have been performing well, and he's proud of their performance. I think all of us as Guyanese know about all the corruption and incompetence by the ministers in this cabinet. But the president says that he is satisfied with their performance. He's unbothered with the wholesale giveaway of lands and our national patrimony. The crime is ravaging the society. And not only is Mr. Granger unbothered, but we now have the Commissioner of Police who says that he is not bothered by the crime situation in this country. So even the Commissioner of Police might be getting his talking points from APNU, from Congress Place, because of all the words that the Commissioner of Police could have used to describe his feeling, that's what he said. He said he was not bothered. And we know that Granger has this whole campaign going on where he is unbothered by anything that the PPP does. And so, that is a dumb slogan, and it will come back to haunt them, and it's already coming back to haunt them. So we had anything like 16 murders in 15 days, and the commissioner is unbothered. I don't want to go on much longer because I want to leave some time for your calls, so you will let the calls start coming through. But just before we go to the phone lines, since I'm on the topic of giving away money, we saw Walter Lawrence giving away a check to the Guinness Bar to help them rebuild after the fire. And I'm never opposed to anybody trying to help somebody in a crisis or in a situation that is devastating. But where are the checks that should be going to the other victims of fire? We've had several fires over the last few days, and no checks have been given to them, but a check was given to the Guinness Bar to help them rebuild. And if you remember a few years back when Granger went to Buxton and gave a speech to the youths there, he gave a talk to them. He said, that the unemployment rate is the way it is in Buxton because the youths are lazy and spending all their money at the Guinness Bar. But suddenly, the Guinness Bar is a priority for this government. And so this is a pattern that, what should be on their list of priorities is not, and all of the frivolous things, they are there up front and center. So the flood victims and all of these things, no checks are being handed out to them, but they pick this event, Guinness Bar fire, to give that person a check. And so while they've been going out on their ministerial outreaches and so on, the places where they're needed the most, the fire victims, they're needed on the coast in Maikoni, where the farmers have been affected. We have not been seeing them there on the ground, handing out checks there, or meeting people there, or sympathizing with persons. So proof again that their priority is not where it should be, and you can only expect more of this come next year. We're going to go to the phone lines now. Caller, good evening.
Good evening, Susan. The thing with 2 points quick, right?
Yes, go ahead.
A government around the world, any party might be actually might be that doesn't corrupt.
I didn't get that. You're asking me something?
Yeah, Jeff, I'm asking.
Go ahead. Speak up a little bit for me, please.
Around the world is corrupt.
I never said any party was free of corruption. If you used to follow my program from the beginning, I acknowledged on this very program that the PPP made many, many mistakes over their 23 years.
Right. There's a kind of corruption. They make mistakes. But you see, the point is with the claim on the injunction. I'm glad you bring that. That's a very good point.
The point on?
House registration and the claim and objection.
Okay.
And it's very good that y'all are looking into it and y'all are bringing pictures into it. But then again, you think it's right for somebody to have the ID card for 8 years? I think like do not use your bank account for 8 years. When you go to the bank, you got to go through this card. The bank comes with your account, start over fresh. So the thing with the ID card, when people are not picking up, I think it's right. You need to take them, because why you would need such important documents for them? I said I left my ID card by you for 8 years.
But caller, the point is, our Constitution, it is unlawful. Our Constitution does not provide for that. We cannot sit and make a decision that is contrary or in violation of the laws of our land. We have to go, but if you want to change that, you got to change the law first. You can't make a decision in violation of the laws of the country.
Okay, so the next thing with the QC things, right? You said, for me, why the president pay attention to it? All the politicians in this world, in Guyana here, you check them, all of them attended QC. You check from Nandalal,
No, no, I don't have a problem with the president
I sure
attending the
yeah.
ceremony. The point I was making is that he now wants to penalize the Stabrook News for not covering the event. But the Stabrook News is a private newspaper, and if they don't think that this is newsworthy, they are entitled to not cover the event.
But I was watching television for 6, and I give him this respect. You know what he said? That when he was in office and he didn't show news, no government admin, so it was an error for him.
Yes.
Right? And I understand that. And Susan, we are human, and we don't make this.
Yes, yes, of course.
Anyhow, thank you very much.
All right, Carla. Thank you very much for coming through. Yeah. So, I feel free to call in. You can agree, you can disagree. That's fine. We can have a very fruitful discussion. We can have a debate, and the viewers and listeners at home can benefit from the points that are made and from the discussion. Caller, good evening.
Good night, Susan.
Hi.
Concern GCOM, right?
Yes, sir.
Only body will help people come back your power is Cancer Center. GCOM will never put back your in power. The old from the chairman come right down, it's in government. And every day we see Inga no law in this country right now. The law gone one side. And people will never come back in power with this GCOM chairman. She will not put people, she will not do a fair election. The only body will help the people back in office is the Cancer Center. And the crime, you have to remember, is this government appointing commissioner of police with 4 deputies. They go off all the rest of assistant commissioner on one side, the former commissioner get you off the job, and this government appoint this commissioner of police with 4 deputies. Thank you very much.
Okay, caller. Thank you for coming through. Now, the last point that the caller made is very important, and this is why a lot of police officers, policemen and women, have been coming to see the leader of the opposition because they're very dissatisfied with the system now under this coalition government, which is they're just handpicking people and putting them there. The officers in our police force want to know that if they serve and they've dedicated their lives and their service, that they will be properly promoted in the order and in the rank that they should be promoted. And that is not happening. APNU, AFC have been picking people and putting them in positions and overlooking people that are next in line, and the police force is not happy about it. The discipline forces are not happy about it, and we saw their displeasure in this new way of doing things, in this new policy that the government has. We saw it reflected with the 2018 local government elections when they simply did not turn up to vote on the day that they were supposed to vote, on the discipline services day of voting. The numbers were way down, was something like 20% of the forces came out. And in conversations with these officers and so on, they said we're very dissatisfied with what's happening in the discipline services. As it relates to the caller's first point, which is he doesn't have any faith in the GCOM, I want to say to him and to all of you who are watching at home, if you're feeling that way, I want to say this to you. The PNC has rigged has tried to rig and has succeeded in stuffing ballot boxes at every election. This is not, we don't have to fear this for the first time now. They've always done it, and this is why we have an elections petition even for the 2015 elections. They will do that again on March 2nd. What we have to do as supporters of the PPP and as persons who want to see this government removed, we cannot stay at home and say, we've already lost the election, the GCOM chairperson is not going to deliver free and fair elections, we need the Carter Center. Yes, while we need the Carter Center and all of these international observers, we need to ensure that we go out, check the lists, make sure your name is on the list, call up all of your family and your friends, and make March 2nd an event. Make it a day to remember. Make it a day that we restore law and order in this country. Make it a day that you vote for the future of yourself and for your children. Make it a day where you vote for the future of Guyana. It is an event. This will be a national event on March 2nd. And I urge you all to go out in your numbers. And if you were able to turn out and deliver a victory for the PPP in excess of 50,000 votes, there is no amount of rigging that the APNU and the AFC can do that would swing the election in their favor. And so if you're watching, you're at home, you're listening, or you're watching, and you want to do your part, this is what you have to do. This is what you have to do next year. You have to go from now, check to make sure your name is on the list, check to see which polling station you have to go and vote, and then call up your family and your friends and make it a date on March 2nd, 2020, and turn out in your numbers at these polling stations and cast your ballot. And don't let anyone tell you that you're not voting there, or your name is on some other list, or your name was removed, or you didn't participate in the house registration, so your name is not there. Do not go back home without casting your vote. You have to take a stand, and this is what you can do from home. This is what you can do as ordinary Guyanese to make sure that the party that wins the election is announced the winner of the elections. So I urge all of you listening and watching at home to do that. Caller, you're on the air.
Hi, good night.
Good night.
It's an enterprise, right? 12 models in how much would you say 12 models in 1 week? All right.
In about 15 days.
15 days, all right. Let me explain something to you. I don't want to give you much of your answer. All of that is climbed that have fallen, right? All the people working for the crime are arrested. The only person, the only event, the last robbery that tried to avoid the business was unseen by breaking their initiative and he fired back shot at them. Just now they will be caught if you do your research. All these people them will present these crimes are arrested.
Caller, you think it's right for the Commissioner of Police to go on TV and to say that he's not bothered by the surge in crime? Is this how you want to calm the citizens of our country? By saying you're unbothered by what is going on? For a very, very long time, Ramjatan has refused to admit that we have a crime situation, escalating crime situation.
Don't ever try for private grade.
Okay, caller. Thank you.
When you run, everybody gets caught. Answer me. I'll listen here.
I have made my point. I have said this is what is going on in our country, and they are unbothered by what is going on. That means crime is not a priority for them. If you don't even acknowledge that you have a problem, how are you going to fix it? You have to acknowledge that you have a problem.
You would not going to rob a bank. If I'm going to rob a bank in the morning, you would do.
Well, that is their job.
They're getting caught.
That is their job. That is what the police are there for. Not to tell me that you're unbothered by what is going on. How are the citizens supposed to feel safe?
If I stand in a crime now, if police officers are going to drop somebody, the most important thing, we catching these fellas, this government set a record. You see this country by catching criminals. Don't pray in the sun.
Caller, I don't know that you have any proof that the person's being arrested. I still want an explanation on the soldier that was found with the two bullet wounds and, you know, the Stoll murder. And we had a soldier found with the two bullet wounds. And now they're telling us that the two is unrelated, that it wasn't the soldier, it was somebody else. And then a youth was arrested for the shooting and the killing of Stoll. So how are we to believe anything that is going on? We saw photos of this soldier in the same outfit with the same two bullet wounds to his body, and they want us to believe that these two events are unrelated. We can't trust anything that we're hearing coming out, any of this information coming from the Commissioner of Police. Hello? 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 Okay, wait. Caller, good evening.
Good evening. Looking
Hi.
at you guys, you know, the PPP and the PNC. It's just like a regular animal farm. You know, when you're out, like 2 legs, same thing, because when you go in the city, you'll be doing.
Okay, caller.
Of course, I'm not PNC. I'm a patriotic Guyanese. I need to see good things done for them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's what we all want, caller. We all want to see better for Guyana. It's time that Guyana, as a country, as a nation, is put first, before party.
Of course. But when the PPP goes into office, because I have no doubt they will go into office again. Because the margin of vote for the coalition was just like 2,500. 2,500 votes. And the coalition did a whole set of nonsense, so the support base was washed away. Because personally, I campaigned for the coalition in the last election.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm campaigning against them.
Okay.
So I have no doubt.
And there are many more thousands like you who wanted to see somebody different, who wanted a chance to compare, and their performance was dismal in the last 4.5 years, and so they can see the writing on the wall.
Yeah, of course, because bearing in mind, I'm not PV either, right? But the taxes and the general standards of living has fallen.
But caller, you don't have to be a PPP, and I would hope that the mindset of the citizens of our country would start to change. I would hope that we could start by voting for candidates and voting on issues, and so listen to the party that has a plan. Listen to a party that has a program and plans on how they will implement these things. Let them work for your vote. No party should sit back and expect you to vote for them. They're supposed to work for your vote. They're supposed to tell you why you should vote for them. And so, of course, I'm going to tell you that party is the PPP, because I believe that they have the plans and the programs to do so. However, the decision is yours, no, but I don't like to force anybody, but I come here every week and I make my case as to why.
Before I campaigned for the coalition, the last election, now I'm campaigning against them.
Okay, caller.
Okay,
Yes, and that's a very good choice. Thank you very much. Let's see who we have on the line. Caller, good evening. Hello? So while we wait on another call, and that's a very, very good point that the caller just made there. We as Guyanese, we have to vote on issues. We have to move past this whether I grew up in a PNC household or a PPP household, and I will vote for the party that my mother or my grandparents voted for. Let the people and the citizens of this country, especially the young people, vote on issues. You've listened to Granger. You've listened. Our presidential candidate, Mr. Dr. Irfan Ali, now is out there doing his interviews too. You can hear the ease with which he speaks about macroeconomic policies and microeconomic policies and how we'll develop the oil and gas sector and what we'll do for agriculture and what we'll do in the social sector and what we'll do in health. He's the man who has developed all these housing schemes. He has his doctorate in urban and regional planning, something that is very, very necessary in our country. Listen to the persons who have the plans for our future. And you know the people that make up our party. We have the leader of the opposition, Mr. Barajagdio. We have a team, and we have a program that we have put together for this country and how we'll move this country forward. Have an objective look at it, and you can make a decision for yourself. Caller, good evening.
Good evening. Hey, everybody talking about the PNC and the economy bad, but if you take drugs out of the equation, you have no economy. America now, if America stop drugs, the economy there is like your uncle will get shoot up by the place there, Ricardo Rodrigues. It's because of the PPP government like he did. You understand? Don't laugh.
I gotta laugh because you call me to talk nonsense. You didn't call me to talk anything of facts. Look, don't accuse me of being related to anybody who I'm not related to. I'm just going to take that caller off the line because he's wasting my time. He's wasting the time of all of you who are watching. I tell people all the time, if you're going to call me to have a discussion, call me to let's talk facts. I'm not here to waste time. I'm here to discuss the issues and facts. I am not related to Ricardo Rodrigues. I'm not related to Carolyn Rodrigues either. Many people see me and say, oh, how is your mom or something. I am not related to Carolyn Rodrigues. Nobody in my family has ever been a member of the PPP or any political party. I'm the first person to have stepped out and joined a political party and advocate on behalf of the PPP. So if you're going to start off with that, that's nonsense. And if the economy was running on drugs and all of that, where are the arrests? Roger Khan is a free man. Don't call me to repeat things that you have heard. But I thank you for your viewership. I'm glad you're watching. And I hope you learned something from this program because you desperately need it. Caller, good evening.
Yes, good night. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Okay. First thing first.
Yes, caller.
I must say, I would like to congratulate David Granger all the way.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Secondly,
what are you congratulating him for?
For everything he has done so far. It's 12 years.
Like what? Tell me one.
Everything that you was, the greating that he did, everything I want to congratulate him.
No, I just want you to tell me one thing. Just tell me one thing.
He was in power for 23 and how much years?
No.
Right? It's impossible for my loving president only a couple of years and do fix all the damages that he made within 20 years. Number one. Secondly, in PPP time, police stop you, they're harassing you.
Police stop you, PPP time more than police stopping you now? I see police on every single corner. When I drive down the road, police are on every single corner, especially on the East Bank when David Granger has to go home.
Elections, look at PPP. Read a book. You have to read a book about PPP. We're talking about Reagan election. Our government, this is I just want to say thank you, Mr. Granger, for everything you have done.
But I wanted you to tell me something that he has done for you. You haven't told me that yet.
You don't have to. You and I are big people, right?
Yeah. So let's have big people conversation.
One law. I don't care who president is. One law. I would ask is if anybody that disrespect the president, don't care who it is, that person could put against the law, and that's what people like you. All I see is
so the president can disrespect the Constitution. He can disrespect the Constitution. He can disrespect the rule of law. But we must respect the president.
What rule are you talking about? What rule?
What rule?
Open your eyes, my sweetie. Open your eyes and see what Granger has done for Guyana. He can't do.
You can't. Up to now, you've been on this phone for over 2 minutes, and up to now, you can't tell me.
Our big people, you and I could read and spell. Open your eyes. We're talking about the Reagan election.
Who rigged elections for 28 years?
And you're talking about the Reagan election.
Who rigged the election for 28 years?
PPP. All you did is low grading and disrespecting the president so far. I don't care who president it is.
Okay, caller, I've given you your chance to talk.
put aside.
Thank you very much for coming through.
I love Mr. Granger. I love you, Mr. President. Thank you.
Very unfortunate that he doesn't love you back. I'm very sorry. He hasn't shown any love to you or any Guyanese in the past 4.5 years. He does love his ministers and his friends and family and cronies, though. And so, it's unfortunate that I'm sure you're not one of the persons getting some of the soup, but yet there you are. Caller, good evening.
Yeah, you say like the top fox, right? That soldier guy will get shoot, right? Yeah, I really scholar you, tell you, you're an intelligent person, right? I sure you could read it right, and I sure that I still see, right? No, that soldier will get shoot, my friend. The person who was charged and pulled for that murder is in the detention center, my friend.
Is it what?
It is in the detention center, the juvenile shooter soldier in the detention center. That guy was involved in a robbery with Saul, friend.
So I want to see the ballistics report. I want to see the ballistics report. Only so you can prove to me that the soldier that was killed was not. That we on the issue. We are on the issue. I want to see the ballistics report. It's easy. It's Dion Stoll that shot him. It's easy. They have the gun.
No, that's what the guy was involved in that.
Okay.
A motorbike that by the porches and find yourself in that problem.
Okay, caller.
Right. If you want to let this friend, I remember going to Masha Money, right? On Church Street by the mall here, right? Look how that place is, friend. It was Sunday party, people with a family. Understand? As you call it.
Church Street by the mall? I passed there on Sunday. Vagrants are sleeping on the on all of the benches and in all the swings. Homeless people are there. They've taken over Church Street. And why haven't they finished the project? They started one big project at Church Street there, and they haven't finished it. It's left halfway. Okay. All right, caller. Yeah, I know the excuses are limitless. Right? But that is your choice. If you want to give David Granger another chance, that's your choice.
No, well, I want to finish this, right? These people know will act, yeah, right? The food they give you need to tell you, yeah, come and pick up your ID. Yeah, the day before this, the PPP was doing, cutting and rigging election. 2 decades.
Well, I never thought I would hear the day when you hear PPP need to rig elections. The PPP have never even needed to rig elections, much as I've had to do it. Okay, caller, thank you very much. Thank you very much for coming through, caller. The PPP, the APNU apologists are just out tonight. And it's very, very exciting when they call in. It means that, what it means is that we're reaching them, and it means that the program is having an impact on them. So I'm very happy to take their calls, because whenever they come through, they call and they say, they do like Granger. Oh, we want to call and let's talk facts. And then, like the caller before, she can't tell me one thing, not even one thing that David Granger has done to improve her life. She can't even give me a personal experience, much less to tell me what he has done for the greater good of Guyana, what he has done for Guyanese. But they say ignorance is bliss, and it's a sad. I pity those persons who are still under the impression or under the spell of the PNC. But a new day is coming. Fortunately, Guyanese are more equipped, they're more educated, they're more intelligent, and they are more equipped, and they have more access to information. And so they are able to disseminate for themselves. They can separate what is fact and what is fiction. They can look at the evidence. They have seen and they have witnessed the lies of the coalition government, and they know that it is time for them to be removed. We cannot go another term with this government. They know that. By then, Guyana the entire of Guyana will be given away to foreigners if they are allowed another term in here, and Guyanese, nothing will be left, will be left for Guyanese. And so those of you, as the caller said, who have ears, let them hear. And I urge all of you with I urge all of you who want to see a better day for Guyana and want to see a change to come out on March 2nd and give your support to the People's Progressive Party. I am out of time. I thank you very much for joining me this evening, and I look forward to being here with you next week. In the meantime, enjoy your week, and I'll see you next week.